61 points, double overtime, one of the wildest finishes of the season. Ant went nuclear. Jokic went historic. And somehow, the Nuggets lost. Jokic's career night produced the most points by a player in the NBA this season. He also had 10 rebounds and 10 assists, recording the third 60-point triple-double and the highest scoring triple-double in NBA history. He played 52 minutes and 38 seconds without leaving the floor after halftime. But let me show you how this one went off the rails. The Nuggets knew from the outset that Jokic would have to carry an even bigger load without both Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. Joker's contributions were out of this world. Add the fact that he put up those numbers while shooting 62% from the field, 55% from three, and 79% from the foul line, all while putting multiple Wolves into serious foul trouble and playing the most minutes in a single NBA game this season. How does he still find ways to amaze even his most loyal fans? Nikola came up to me after the third quarter and said, "Coach, I'm good. Leave me in there. I don't want to come out. Let me just keep playing," Nuggets coach Michael Malone said afterward. The guy is Superman. Ultimately, the superhuman effort wasn't enough to break a losing streak against this Minnesota squad. But this wasn't just a meaningless April regular season game. The Western Conference standings are so crowded that every win counts, especially for Minnesota, who is trying to climb out of the play-in tournament and secure an outright playoff spot. They took a crucial step toward that goal, tying the Memphis Grizzlies in wins and losses, though they still hold the 7th seed due to their tiebreaker disadvantage. But when it comes to their season series with the Nuggets, it's all mini. The Wolves are now 6-0 against Denver, including last postseason. Do they truly have Jokic's number? What we saw in the second round of the 2024 playoffs was the result of a coordinated effort to specifically counter Jokic and the Nuggets. Wolves lead executive Tim Connolly, who, ironically, drafted Jokic in Denver, built this Minnesota squad to slow the MVP down in the playoffs, throwing waves of big physical defenders at him, with Rudy Gobert lurking in the paint. But that was last season. The Wolves had to trade Karl-Anthony Towns in October for financial reasons. Julius Randle, the key piece they got in return, is a strong, physical player, but he's smaller and not as dominant on the boards as Towns. Naz Reid is still on the team, but he was serving a one-game suspension for his role in the brawl against the Detroit Pistons in their previous game. So was Dante DiVincenzo, the versatile sharpshooting guard they acquired from the Knicks, who had been finding his rhythm alongside Anthony Edwards in Minnesota. With both teams shorthanded, it only made sense for the Stars to take on the extra responsibility. And boy, did they ever! Let's take a look at how the game unfolded. Nikola Jokic and Aaron Gordon, Denver's well-synced front line, wasted no time getting the Nuggets on the board. First, Jokic picked off a tipped pass from Anthony Edwards, calmly brought the ball up the floor, and drained a pull-up three to open the scoring. Aaron Gordon followed that up with a nearly identical pull-up triple from the same spot. Jokic then got the ball in the corner and gave Rudy Gobert an early taste of what was coming, driving straight at the reigning Defensive Player of the Year and floating one in through contact. While the Wolves came out ice cold, Gordon stayed red hot. Denver jumped out to a 12-point lead just 4 minutes in. The Nuggets defense locked in, and Peyton Watson was giving Anthony Edwards absolute fits. With little offensive flow, Minnesota was struggling to stay afloat. Finally, Ant-Man got on the board with a transition floater, drawing contact and a foul on Watson for an and one. Still, it was all Nuggets early on. Denver maintained a double-digit lead as the quarter wound down. Jokic continued picking on Gobert, drawing his first foul by dragging him out to the perimeter, well outside Rudy's comfort zone. Minnesota's role players began hitting some shots, but Jokic answered every time. A short burst of outside shooting got the Wolves back into the game with an 11-2 run near the end of the quarter. But Jokic wasn't done. He baited Gobert into a second foul with a clever up fake in the paint. When Gobert checked out for the rest of the period, Nikola kept abusing the Wolves' bigs, drawing another and one with yet another pump fake. At the end of the first quarter, Denver led 32-26. The Nuggets opened the second quarter with a couple of quick buckets, but back-to-back offensive rebounds for Minnesota sparked a 7-0 run and swung the momentum. The Wolves eventually tied it up, but Denver's defense continued to make life difficult when they managed to secure the rebound, that is. The real issue was on offense. Outside of Nikola, the Nuggets just couldn't get much going. Jokic checked back into the game at the 6:38 mark with Minnesota dominating the non-Jokic minutes. From that point forward, Jokic didn't leave the floor for the rest of the night, not a single second of game time. Denver held a slim lead through most of the quarter, staying just a few buckets ahead of Minnesota until things unraveled in the final minutes of the half. A sloppy stretch allowed the Wolves to rip off a 10-0 run. Anthony Edwards remained relatively quiet in the second, but it was Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Rudy Gobert, and Rob Dillingham who picked up the slack and kept Minnesota in the fight while their superstar tried to shake off an early slump. A pair of Jokic free throws helped Denver cling to the lead, but they went into halftime up just 53-52. Rudy Gobert was causing problems for the Nuggets at the rim to open the third quarter, helping Minnesota reclaim the lead, but Jokic continued to be an unstoppable force, carrying Denver's offense with his scoring, drawing contact, and creating for teammates. Midway through the quarter, he grabbed an offensive rebound and delivered a ridiculous behind-the-back assist to Christian Braun. Denver stayed within a bucket or two, but every offensive possession felt like a grind. Anthony Edwards mixed in a strong drive amid a string of missed pull-ups, but it was mostly Nickeil Alexander-Walker doing the scoring for Minnesota, helping the Wolves maintain a 6-point cushion heading into the final minutes of the quarter. The Nuggets finally got a spark from Westbrook just before the buzzer, but still trailed 84-79 after 3 quarters. Jokic was still on the floor to start the fourth, and the Nuggets came out firing with a 10-0 run. 7 of those points coming from Nikola himself. First, he got a layup in transition, then slipped behind Gobert for a crafty cut and finish, followed by a cold-blooded 3 right between Rudy's eyes. As if that weren't enough, Jokic added a hoop, and the harm on the Frenchman to cap it off. Denver's defense was locked in, and Joker kept orchestrating beautifully. When the Nuggets pushed the lead to 9, Minnesota had to burn a timeout. The Wolves responded and chipped away at the deficit. Denver was up just 5 with a little over 5 minutes to go. Anthony Edwards started heating up, finally knocking down a pull-up 3, then set up Gobert with a spin and dish for a dunk, and found Randall for a 3. The game was heading for a photo finish. Jokic countered with a slick 2-man play, feeding a cutting Westbrook from the post. But Edwards answered with a smooth lefty drive, finishing over both Watson and Jokic. Then came a critical moment. Jokic drew Rudy's 5th foul as Gobert chased him over a screen, worried about his jumper. A quick 8-1 Wolves run put them up 3 with just under 2 minutes left, thanks to back-to-back long bombs from Edwards. Denver cut it to 2 but came up empty on back-to-back 3s from Brown and Gordon. With 30 seconds left, still down 2, they had one last shot at it. Guess who? Jokic came through again, drawing Rudy's 6th foul and tying the game at the line. Randall missed a buzzer-beating 3 from Minnesota, and we were headed to overtime. Minnesota grabbed the early edge in overtime, but the lead never stretched beyond a bucket. The Wolves kept hitting tough shots while the Nuggets struggled to score, and the lead eventually grew to 6. After a timeout, Denver responded with a pair of timely 3s to stay alive. Once again, the Nuggets found themselves down 2 with the ball. Jokic calmly drained his 6th 3 of the night to cut the lead to 1, then followed it up with a soft baby hook in the post to tie the game once more. Minnesota couldn't convert on the final possession, and just like that, we were headed to double overtime. Mike Conley opened double overtime with a triple, giving Minnesota a slight lead. Edwards added to it with a smooth catch-and-shoot 3 from the corner. But Jokic wasn't done. He sparked a 6-0 run all by himself to not only put Denver back in front by 3, but also hit the 60-point mark. Minnesota punched back with a run of their own and reclaimed the lead with just over a minute left, thanks to Ant going straight at Jokic. The 2 teams traded 3s, and Westbrook hit one of 2 free throws to tie it up. But on the second miss, chaos ensued. The refs couldn't figure out who the ball went out on and called a jump ball. Jokic won the tip, drew a foul, and hit one of 2 free throws to put Denver up 1 with 17 seconds left. Then came the infamous sequence. Westbrook tipped a pass from Edwards, hit Christian Braun on a 2-on-1 break as the clock ticked under 10 seconds, and got the ball right back on a crash course toward the basket. His layup dinked off the rim. Minnesota had one last shot. Alexander Walker pulled up for a buzzer-beating 3 and missed, but a whistle blew. Westbrook was called for a foul on a reckless closeout. Alexander Walker sank 2 free throws with 0.1 on the clock as Edwards danced at midcourt, celebrating Minnesota's 6th straight win over the Nuggets. Peyton Watson stood frozen, hands covering his face. Aaron Gordon didn't wait for the final buzzer. He walked straight to the tunnel as Alexander Walker stepped to the line and calmly buried the free throws that buried Denver. "We had the game won," said Gordon, who finished with 30 points. "That's something to take away from it. We beat ourselves at the end. Nuggets head coach Michael Malone didn't hold back either. "Losing sucks," Malone said post-game. "Losing like that really sucks. But again, I just can't say it enough. I know there's a lot of talk. Do our guys not want to play against Minnesota? Are they scared of Minnesota? And I think hopefully tonight I knew it. But for other people, we don't fear anybody," he continued. "And I know we can beat anybody." The question everyone was asking afterward, should the Nuggets have pulled the ball out and run down the clock instead of going for the layup? "It's tough. You've got a 2-on-1 break," Malone said. "As a coach, am I up on the sideline yelling, 'Don't go'? We've got a layup." But it's easy to say that, pull the ball out, in hindsight, because we missed a layup. Westbrook is a tough kid, and I think he knows that everybody in that locker room's got his back. Anthony Edwards finished with 34 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists, erupting for 24 of those points after the third quarter. He's now scored 25 or more in 7 straight games against Denver. He just took off, and that's what superstars do. And that's why he's a special person and a special player in this league, Jokic said. Edwards returned the compliment in the most Ant-Man way possible. "Nikola Jokic? He might be the best basketball player that I have ever seen close up besides myself," cracked Edwards. "He is incredible. The MVP race is tough. I don't know. He had 60. That is crazy." The game had the feel of a playoff war, featuring 21 lead changes. But even without 2 key contributors, Minnesota's bench delivered in a big way, outscoring Denver's reserves 40-14. "Just tired. It was an exhausting game," Jokic said after the game. "It was 2 overtimes," he added. "We were up, they were up, both teams were coming back. In the first or second overtime, we were down 6 at one point. We came back. So, it was an interesting game." The NBA's king of understatement. The game was incredible and could easily challenge any match for Game of the Year. Funny enough, it happened shortly after Steph Curry dropped 52 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, and 5 steals in a clutch win against the Memphis Grizzlies. Needless to say, the Wolves and Nuggets stole the center stage on that night of NBA basketball. Jokic gave us history, Edwards gave us heart, but in the end, a missed layup and a foul stole the show. And if the Wolves are this clutch in the playoffs, who's stopping them? Drop a comment if you think Jokic deserved to win this one. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more in-depth basketball stories and analysis.